Jonathan, this is a surprise. Okay, we thought last week that it might happen, but no one really seriously thought it would.
Well, I'm not very surprised because Raila has been, adamant, with his demands that the Electoral Commission, needs to be reformed. At least those suspected of aiding the hacking, the so-called alleged hacking, of the system in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta should be moved. And what surprises me is that immediately after the Supreme Court ruling, the head of the Electoral Commission actually said that, in fact, just like admitted that some elements within the commission, were culpable, and that they will be moved, and if possible, prosecuted. So why hasn't anything happened until now? Okay, so I believe Raila, has that leverage, of the Supreme Court decision, right? And he's using it to the maximum utmost effect.
This wasn't a ploy by Raila Odinga and his coalition party to try and force Uhuru Kenyatta to agree to some kind of power sharing.
I don't believe Raila will entertain that idea of power sharing. I think he wants it all. Yeah. So his latest, the decision today, the press conference that he announced that he will be withdraw for the elections, is, again, exercising that leverage he's got to the maximum. Sure. Now it creates, some confusion, if you like, right? Number one, is Uhuru going to go it alone and return to office unopposed? Number two, according to the Constitution, is Uhuru Kenyatta going to stand down and let the Speaker of Parliament become an interim president pending the necessary structures?
And this is what the Constitution dictates.
Yes, that's what it dictates. Yes.
Okay. Can I shed some light on this, John and David? In fact, and also show you some images we just got into a rise from the south of Kenya of Mr. Kenyatta at a rally, and he's given some reaction today to Odinga's statement. Here he is, and he says, Mr. Odinga has exercised his democratic right to withdraw from the election process. We've got no problem with that. The elections will go ahead as planned. In fact, we'll get more votes. So he's come out fighting here. I think this is going to go back to the Supreme Court for some more wrangling. And let's save some lawyers' fees, shall we? I found the regulation in the electoral regulations of Kenya. Let's take a look at section 52, subparagraph 2, which says, well, if you can read it there, where there are two nominated candidates and one withdraws, as Odinga has, the remaining candidate shall be declared elected. Well, there we are.
Is it as easy as that, John?
Well, if the Constitution, actually I haven't looked at their Constitution, but if the Constitution says that, well, then I'm sorry.
That's not the Constitution, those are the election regulations.
Election regulations,
by the IBC.
Well, but I believe it cannot be done without a provision in the Constitution.
So the Supreme Court then has to look at all the evidence, and let's assume that they'll be looking at the regulations.
How on earth, I mean, the NASA coalition led by Raila Odinga, how on earth are they going to respond to this? I mean, I suppose that there's still a great fear, and there's been a fear for the past couple of months or so, since the election was annulled, the fear that there's going to be a return to the kind of violence that we saw in 2007 with 1,200 people killed.
I hope it doesn't get to that, and I hope Raila appeals for peace, appeals to supporters to exercise restraints, whilst any recourse available,
And this is what we're looking at what happened in 2007, but hopefully wise heads will prevail and this kind of thing might not happen. But really, surely the scene is set for more tension.
Exactly. Now, and it's going to have it's already the decision, the Supreme Court decision last month has had, an effect, an impact on Kenya's economy. Right? The stock market index keeps going down. Investor sentiment has been affected, right? And it's going to have a knock-on effect within the whole East Africa sub-region, because Kenya is economic giant of the sub-region. Okay, and it's not going to take. It's going to take maybe about 2019 for things to come back to normal economically.
Just
so this doesn't work out well.
Remind us here that Kenya is the biggest tea producer in the world.
In the world as well, yes.
It's a major hub for some of the multinational companies, including Toyota, General Electric, a couple of ones I've just noted. They recently found oil in the north, didn't they? About 1 billion barrels there. Kenyatta's got a real crisis on his hands at the moment.
And my other worry is that, in cases like this, the Western nations are quick to issue travel advisories, right? Yeah. Don't go here, don't go there. So it might affect their second, I think, biggest...
tourism is so important, isn't
it? Yeah, that is tourism. It might affect people, tourists trying to our country. And it might affect them. Tourism, I think, is the second biggest foreign sector.
What do you think, both of the opposition calling for yet more rallies, telling supporters not to engage in the fresh presidential election? That again sets the scene for terrible tension, surely.
Well, it's not this, but one hopes that lessons have been learned from the bloodshed of 2007, and that doesn't happen again. Because I'm not sure people have the appetite for bloodshed. So I think it's happened in Liberia's elections are today going peacefully. Everything. So I believe that violence does not.
But John, there has been a lot of violence in Kenya in the last few weeks. Dozens of people have been killed. I agree, not on the scale. Not on the scale.
So 34, I think.
But I mean, it's still 34 too many. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's too many. Yeah.
And here, this is what happened. This was yesterday, in fact, or the day before. A couple of people injured here, and this was by police, as we saw. But I'm just wondering now. I mean, will there still be an election on the 26th rather, of this month?
If there isn't, I believe that the Election Commission will be in breach of a court ruling. They'll be in contempt of court. I think it has to go ahead. And Kenyatta seems to reinforce this idea tonight. They're saying, we're still going to go ahead. What happens after that? Is he running then an illegitimate government that, it wasn't a free and fair election? Yeah,
I'll give you an example. I mean, there's a precedent, albeit not presidential but parliamentary. When Ghana returned to democratic rule in 1992, the opposition cried foul. Rawlings won, right? So the presidential and the parliamentary were held on separate days. So because they cried foul, they pulled out, boycotted the parliamentary elections. So the Ghana Parliament from 1992 to 4 years to 1996 was composed only of the NDC ruling parties MPs. So it went ahead without the opposition. So there is a precedent there, though not in Kenya, but in Africa.
I mean, because there were no reforms and the Electoral Commission didn't agree to this in any shape or form, Raila Odinga was saying that, therefore, the fresh election would be tainted as well as the annulled election, and that the result would be worse than the previous one, as it were. Isn't he right?
He is right, but I'm hoping that there could be some mediation, from the AU, or from anywhere.
Is the Electoral Commission
to resolve?
Does Uhuru Kenyatta control, to a certain extent, the Electoral Commission? And there was a situation, obviously, where the Supreme Court stepped in and did what they did. So, is there some kind of?
Well, there's a kind of balance because the Supreme Court balances it out. They're in favour of Odinga, aren't they? Generally speaking.
Yeah, but in theory, the president. Has no control whatsoever.
Right.
The Electoral Commission is supposed to be independent. That's why it's called the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Do Raila's supporters think that the Electoral Commission is controlled by Uhuru Kenyatta?
In reality, they don't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Both, thank you very much indeed. And